Okay, everyone, good morning. It's good to be here again. And now I'm going to continue my explanation. This time, I'm going to talk about a different method of data analysis or interpretation. If previously I talked about how to do a data interpretation and analysis when you take the descriptive qualitative approach, now we are going to use another method. Sorry, not approach, but method. And this one is for a descriptive comparative. Now let me share with you my screen here. All right. So when you do a descriptive comparative method, you have a slightly different set of stages to make the analysis and eventually make argument or come up with the result of your research. And here are how it will be different. In general, however, you still do interpretation of your data and using close reading. But there is a different element added to that in this stage, in this method. The first one that you need to be aware of is that, yes, we still do close reading when we do research in literature. It is part of the hermeneutic approach. So yes, it is there. But in addition to close reading, we also do comparing here. And that's, well, that's why it's called descriptive comparative. The first thing that you will need to do that in descriptive comparative is you will identify the comparable aspects of two stories at least. Okay, you cannot just compare one story, of course. And then after you do that, you dig deeper into the story to find out what meanings you can make out of the differences or the similarities for that matter, because sometimes you will have to do that. You will find similarities between works. And how do you find the comparables? There are basically two ways. First, you compare elements of two works. Okay, for example, you have a movie and you have a novel. The novel is inspired by a movie. Who knows? Sometimes it happens like that. And you will find the differences between these two works and how those differences create different meanings or different reception by the readers or the audience. And the second one is you can compare works, but you want to find the topics. You want to focus more on the topics than on the works. This can happen, for example, if you compare several works, maybe three novels from Indonesia, the United States, and Australia, for example. You want to compare how they present the relationship between the government and the society. Or you want to present how these three works talk about nature. So you can compare how these three works tackle certain themes. So that's what you can do. The comparison doesn't always have to be between a work and its movie adaptation, but it can also be between different works. That's why you will also find similarities when you do descriptive comparative study. And how do you explain the comparable aspects? First of all, you will need to show how they are different or how they are similar. That's the first thing. And then after that, you you explain the meaning of these differences or similarities. If a work presents, for example, if a work presents nature in this manner, for example, the character lives in nature and he or she doesn't want to interfere with it in the movie, but then in the novel, the character doesn't do that. He in fact makes a living by, for example, cutting trees to build the house or cutting trees to make certain things. Then the meaning that we get from these two works are different. The first one implies that the character lives in harmony with nature. The second one, we might explain that as the character uses nature for his or her own purposes. So you find how these differences or similarities create meanings. And of course, you are the person who make meanings out of these stories, okay? And after you make that first explanation, you find support, just like what we did yesterday with descriptive, sorry, not yesterday, earlier with descriptive qualitative method. You also find supports from theories, from concepts, from different fields of studies to support your explanation or your interpretation of those differences. This is basically the general stages. And finally, at the end, you draw a conclusion based on the impact of these differences. And after you have this conclusion, you draw from from many differences, then that's your assertion. That's what you can contribute to understanding the work better. And that's also an argument that you make at the end of the study. All right. Now let's continue to the next stage, which is the technical steps. I'm going to show you an example of how we can do a descriptive comparative study. If you choose to compare between two works, or if you want to compare several works in how they tackle certain themes. Okay, now here is what you can do when you compare two works of the same, basically a skeleton of a story. This one will be a novel compared to its movie version. When somebody makes a movie out of a novel, this person usually has to make a lot of adaptations. There will be additions, there will be omissions, but there will also be changes. And that happens a lot. You have seen a lot of movies based on novels, I believe. And you might notice the differences between the movies and the novels. So here, for example, in the novel, there are only two male characters working in a cafe. And that makes the cafe look, it makes it look more, what? Manly, or something that looks more like a cool thing for men, okay? It's basically male-centered. But in the movie version, there is this addition of female character there. And the female character plays, for example, major role in the story or in the narrative. Then what you can elaborate from this is you make meaning out of this. And how do you make meaning? Maybe it's that you think the female character does this and this and this, and these are things that you cannot find in the novel. So this is a new thing. It makes the character look like she has some kind of role. She plays a major role, and it somehow gives a better representation of women in the work. So the movie presents women better than the novel. That's just an example, okay? And from there, the conclusion that you can draw is your claim here, that there is this issue of agency of women in the novel, or sorry, in the movie. And this is the difference. The novel doesn't have it, but the movie has it. So this is one assertion that you make and you keep it. You will keep doing this with other elements that you find in the work, in the comparison between the movie and the novel. You will collect many of these, and eventually at the end, you will use this as you will draw a conclusion based on this to make an argument or the result of your thesis. Now, this is another comparison. The comparison here is driven by the topic or the theme. And here I'm using an example of only two works compared. There can be 3 works or 4 works and so on. I have done a comparison between 3 works, a work by an Indonesian writer writing about immigrants in New York. And there's also a work by an immigrant in the US from Pakistan, and the other one is an immigrant in the US from Palestine. So I have done a comparison of three works on certain topics. And here, for example, you compare one novel about a character that tries as much as possible to avoid using guns. But in another work, here in novel B, the character uses firearms somewhat liberally. Everything is solved by guns or by rifles and so on. And from these two, you can elaborate that when it comes to the representation of guns, novel A appears to see guns as inherently dangerous, and that's why the character keeps avoiding using it. But the character still kills people, maybe with knives or with swords or anything. While in novel B, the character uses guns liberally and so on. Now, the conclusion that you can draw between this is that, okay, their attitude towards guns are different. While novel A tends to shy away from using guns, although the characters still do violence, the novel B takes guns as something that you cannot avoid anymore. Both of them, however, are violent movies or violent novels. So that's one claim or one topic that you can get from the comparison. And that, again, you will take notes of this part and keep this as your assertion, okay? Something that you have found. You collect many of this, and eventually, after you have many assertions, you can make a conclusion and draw a conclusion, and that will be the argument that you propose at the end. Okay, yeah, this is basically what I just mentioned to you earlier. So you draw conclusions based on these assertions, and at the end, you will, this will be your contribution to understanding the work better, or understanding how the work talks about one topic or another. All right. Now I would like for you to try with a topic that you have on your own. I know that you have several topics, and I know that you have that you already have ideas to develop. Let's now try to do that, because we have done we have explored questions. We have also discussed methods, and this time we have also discussed how to analyze. Sorry, methods and data analysis, data gathering. Now you are talking about data analysis. We have done all these three parts, and I hope you are now ready to start working on this. Remember, however, this is just about the research process. We are not talking about the presentation process yet, okay? So that's all I have for now. I'll see you soon with the next stage of research technique. Bye.